A beloved cartoon franchise from 1985 has just made a glorious comeback at the hands of a fairly untested and new toy manufacturer. We're talking the Sectaurs from the Nacelle Company, and today we're going to take a look at this revived brand and see if these figures are worth adding to your collection. Hey everybody, welcome back to Nerd News Today. I'm Matthew, and today in hand, we've got two of the latest figures from one of the newest toy manufacturers out there. Originally created in 1985 by Coleco of all companies, another unlikely name for action figures, the Sectaurs had an animated series and a pretty expansive toy line that included some really cool looking characters and some nice vehicles. Well, I guess vehicles slash giant insects, however you want to classify it. But it's become a fairly popular cult classic hit with toy collectors. So let's jump on into things here, and first I want to address who actually manufactures these figures. And chances are the Nacelle Company is not a name you might be super familiar with, but in reality, you probably already know who they are. If you have Netflix, you might remember the TV series they made a few years back called The Toys That Made Us. And that show is executive produced by Brian Volk-Weiss. It's had, I believe now, 4 seasons, and it covered the history of a lot of classic toy lines, ranging from He-Man, Transformers, G.I. Joes, wrestling figures, Star Trek, and so much more. And in the last year or two, the Nacelle Company has now shifted their attention, while continuing to make shows for Vice and Netflix, among others, into the world of making toys. If you want to learn more about Brian, I've actually got a few interviews with him on this very YouTube channel, so go ahead and take a look at that if you want to hear some more background information about this guy and how awesome his toy collection actually is. But today we're talking about his new venture into the world of figures, and this is the Sectaurs. Now, I will admit I did not grow up with the Sectaurs. I was of the correct age to play with them, but it wasn't a toy line I picked up. But I'm not coming into this completely a rookie here. I do know these toys, I've seen them at many toy shows, and to be quite honest, I've admired them from afar. I haven't typically picked any of them up in the past just because it's not really a sort of thing I collect. It's not really a line that I'm like super into, but the toys are really cool looking. I can't deny that. So it's pretty exciting to see the Nacelle Company doing something like this and bringing back this franchise that has had some figures in the last few years, but now they're kind of on a much larger scale. So today we've got 2 figures as part of the Sectaurs launch with the Nacelle Company. In this hand we have Dargon. He is the leader of the good guys, and he's probably the most popular figure. In fact, chances are, if you've seen any Sectaurs figures out in the wild, it was most likely Dargon. But in this hand, now this one here is a little bit more interesting because this is Stellara. Stellara is, according to this packaging, Symbion's toughest warriors, and Symbion is the homeworld of the Sectaurs and the bad guys and all that jazz. But Stellara right here is a figure that didn't actually get produced back in the 80s. You could get plenty of other characters, but getting that lone female action figure was never meant to be. And it's now taken us decades later to finally have her added to the Sectaurs collection, and that's pretty cool. And what else is really cool is the packaging on both these figures. This is a real throwback to those original Coleco packages, except the chances are they're a little bit bigger. Head to toe, the colors are beautiful. It has that really great 80s style graphic design sense, real vibrant look to it as well. And it feels like it really is just pulled right from the Toys R Us shelves in 1985. You've got an enormous blister on the front which showcases the action figures as well as the accessories that they have, and both of them do have a fair amount of accessories here. So the way they're both packaged is you can immediately see everything that comes with them, all the articulation, and really nothing at all is hidden from the consumer. The back of the box, again, going back in time, being a throwback to those original toys from the 80s. Fairly simple card back here, just the Sectaurs logo. We've got images of the respective characters, as well as a bio. I mean, I want to call it a bio, but it's really just a sentence for each of these characters, or 2 in the case of Stellara. But overall, a few words about who each of these characters are, and then a very large block of text explaining what the heck Sectaurs is in case you have no idea, and that's pretty helpful for somebody like me. In addition to a rendering of the figure, you've also got a rundown of what the accessories are, and like I said, they do have a pretty good amount of accessories, and I really like Stellara's, by the way. It just feels like it comes completely out of left field. We'll get into that once we take them out of the box. On the very bottom, we have a look at the 2 figures who are in the Sectaurs line so far, which only is Dargon and Stellara, but really one of my favorite things about the back of the box is the proof of purchase. I have no idea what Nacelle Company's going to do with this. I don't know if it's just nostalgia or if they have actual plans to have something out there. But in all honesty, I love that they have those little points there, and it makes me look forward to getting more of these guys soon. But that's the packaging, and it's quite stellar. Sorry, Stellara, but yeah, it's true. It's really nice packaging, and I hate to take these guys out of the box, but we have to right now. So let's go ahead and get these guys out of their packaging and take a closer look at our Sectaurs out of the box. All right, and here is our Sectaurs, Dargon and Stellara. And out of the box, they're already really, really cool looking. I'm liking a lot of what I'm seeing. It definitely reminds me a lot of the original figures, and Stellara, I mean, she is brand new, but man, there's been some real nice quality life improvements on her since the original Coleco figures, right? So we're going to take this one figure at a time, and let's start first with the leader. Let's start with Dargon. So here he is. Let's go ahead and do a quick rotation just to give you guys a better look at this figure, and I'll give you guys my initial thoughts on him as well. But you know, these guys look really good here. While I'm not a giant fan of the franchise or know a ton about it, I can't help but say that already these things look very good. I'm hoping that their functionality is equally as impressive as their appearance, but we're going to find that out right now. So we're going to start this video the same exact way I do all my other figure reviews, and that's starting with the likeness and the face, and then we'll work our way down the body and take a look at all the other features that this guy has. Now, the most we could compare this to is the original. I'm going to try not to do that since I don't really even own it. I'm going to see if I can just review this guy on its own merits. And as far as like the head goes, it really does feel like a throwback figure. Even though we're not going to compare this to the OG, this very much has the same kind of textural look and abstraction that you would have seen back with the proper 80s action figure. One of the things that I think stood out a lot with those figures was the antenna, and you could see that Dargon has some pretty long ones here. And they are pretty decently, not brittle, but they're pretty firm with a little bit of flexibility. I can see these potentially being an issue, but I don't think they're going to snap off that easily. They look like they're fairly resilient, so that's a plus. But as far as like the face sculpt goes and the model and everything, I mean, this looks really nice. This kind of has that classic 80s action figure vibe. A very neutral sort of face, simple paint, simple sculpt pattern. You know, it's all just about having that square jaw, the high cheekbones, and not much else that matters, other than that, for some reason, of course, these aliens are blonde. But hey, it was the 80s, why not? As we move down, let's talk a little bit more about his body, which is pretty interesting as well. He has this giant chain around his neck with a thing that I'm sure all the Sectaurs fans can tell me what it is, but I don't know what the heck that thing is there. But really nice look to the body. He's got tons of muscles, because of course he does. But I really like the paint job, and really the colors on this figure, you know, top to bottom, they really pop, they really stand out, and look very nice. And I really like this blue color that he has in his body. It's got this like great metallic sheen to it. It has a little bit of a luster to it. It's not like super duper shiny, but it has just the right amount of shine to it to make it really kind of glisten and gleam, and I like that about it. And one of the things that's also kind of popping out a little bit here, you might notice, is that he's got some nice weathering on his gloves, and you'll find that throughout this figure. I think that was also part of the originals too, so it might be customary for the Sectaurs line, but for me as a first timer seeing it, it's pretty cool because there actually is like weathering and some depth to this figure as far as like his abs and his lats go. You can see that even a little bit in the cod piece. And right down to the boots, I think there's a little bit in the boots, not a ton down there, but there's still a little bit. And that really just adds to the look of this guy, you know, like there's more to him than just being a simple one paint job kind of figure. There actually is some detail being shown in here, and I like that. I like figures that have that kind of depth in there, and it also helps them kind of pop more and makes, when the muscles, you know, shine, they really do shine. Now the legs have this really keen looking red racing stripe. I don't know what the purpose of that is. It's only on that one side. Look at that booty, by the way. That is a tight pair of buns, am I right? But yeah, he's got these little racing stripes on his thighs. Okay, I don't really know why that's there, but hey, who am I to judge? And then those boots, again, are really cool. Now, what is kind of weird is that how it's like, looks like it's missing a chunk over here. I mean, I know it's a design choice, I just don't understand the design choice, and he appears to be the only figure that has that, at least so far. There's only 2 figures, but if anybody can explain what's up with that, I'd love to know the details on that from any Sectaurs experts out there. But I do just like overall the whole insectoid feel of this outfit and the armor. You know, it really does feel like it's segmented and very alien and bug-like at the same time. You know, I can now kind of see why there's so much appeal with these figures, because they're aliens, they're super muscle characters, and they're also bugs. That's covering like all the bases. I'm going to get to articulation in a little bit when I show you guys both figures side by side, but what I do want to talk about is some of the accessories that are unique to Dargon. And Dargon, of the 2 figures, has the most accessories. Currently in his hands, we've got 2 right now, but we're going to load him up with everything that he has. So let's start with this first one here. And this is his Sword of Skull, which is such a weird name for an accessory or a weapon, but that's his Sword of Skull. Now, I should mention that while the back of the packaging does explain the names of everything, it doesn't really tell me any other context beyond that, so I know nothing about it. But it's a really cool looking sword. It's kind of shaped like a breadstick at Olive Garden. All the weapons have the same paint scheme, which is just this singular color application here. It's just the color of the plastic. But there's some nice detail on this sword. I like the ridges. Again, kind of repeating that whole insect motif that we're getting with the Sectaurs. Lots of good little tiny details in there, so I dig that. I'm going to take this sword out of his hand for a moment, though, because I want to give him his shield of Skull. And you guys can see it's got a handle on the back of it here. And this is what the front of it looks like as well. It's got a little bit of a starburst effect. So let's see if we can just slide it on. Okay, well, that was easy. I'm curious to see if we can actually... Okay, we can do that. Yeah, I was wondering if we could actually have it like on the side of his hand as well to be, I don't know, a little bit more proper than just having it like in the front like this. Because to me, that just looks kind of funny. I mean, it still works and it is what it is, but I'd much rather have that shield be off to the side of him like this and be a little more of a defensive thing than an offensive weapon. So that's the sword. In addition to that, we have 3 guns for him. Now, one gun is currently in his hand, this little blaster here, and there's actually a second one because these are the twin Venguins, which is, well, definitely a name. So these are his twin blasters right here, which look pretty cool, actually, got to admit. I like how these things look. He is such a big character because of those antennae. Got to zoom out the camera even more. But these are his twin handguns, or hand blasters, whatever you want to call them. The twin Venguins. Yeah, Venguins, actually, I think is how they're pronounced. I don't understand this language one bit, but as far as like little blasters go, they're kind of cool. Again, same color. And what's nice about these is, you might have already noticed, that there are holsters on each side of his body, and we could just slide those Venguins really easily into that holster. And now you got someplace safe to put them while we check out his last accessory, and that's his big gun. And that's the Sleizor, which might be the worst name for an accessory I've ever heard, but it's also just like such a thing of its time that, you know what, I can let it fly and it's not the worst. But yeah, Sleizor, come on guys, Sleizor, sheesh. But yeah, goes right into his hand with no problem at all. It actually almost like fits. Wow. Yeah, thanks to the articulation, you can actually get the butt of that weapon right into his shoulder. And that actually looks really cool that way. I don't understand the purpose of this clip on top here. I know there were some guns in like World War II that did that, but it's a very weird aesthetic to go with. But why not? So that's the Sleizor, and those are all of his accessories. So he looks pretty decked out now. Let's show you guys Stellara, and then we'll take a look at the articulation of everybody. And likewise, I've already got Stellara with her accessories on, but we're going to come back to that. First, just like I did with Dargon, I want to spend some time talking about her head to toe, because Stellara is brand new to this line. She was not a part of the original Coleco figures. This is the very first time that we're getting her. And I actually want to address something that I learned during Toy Fair when I interviewed Brian Volkweiss at the Nacelle Company booth. And he told me that one of the reasons that the Sectaurs' first wave was delayed was in fact due to Stellara. And what it was her armor. And they spent a lot of time trying to get the color of this correct, because as you'll notice, it has this kind of chromium look to it. It's a lot shinier than what Dargon has, and it also has a bit of a color transition in it. And that's going across the body piece, not so much the gloves, but yeah, the body piece, front and back, you can see it's like a blue and purple kind of chrome look. And likewise, we're getting that on her legs as well. So that was why she was delayed for so long, and personally, I think it looks great. I don't, again, I wasn't one of the people who pre-ordered this thing well in advance, so for me, I didn't have to wait as long, but as far as the way it looks, I'm really happy with it, and I think a lot of collectors are going to really like this too. And just like Dargon, Stellara's face is pretty classic as far as I'm calling it, with action figures of that time period. Not a ton of wild-looking features, very subtle, very soft. It's a very feminine look, but still, not featureless, but low on the super heavy details. Nonetheless, she does have nice little nose and a typical jawline that you get with these kinds of female figures of that time period, so I think it fits in perfectly with this line. And likewise, as I've already said, I think the armor looks great. But again, check out some of the cool detail that's on this. Just like Dargon has, there's all of this really cool abdominal and sort of insectoid segmented bits to her. And it's repeated in her gloves too, her gauntlets. Like, I really dig this look. This is a pretty cool looking figure. And we'll keep going down a little bit. You can see a little sneak preview of her articulation and a closer look at those boots, which I think really show off that nice transitional effect on those chromium colors. Really, really stunningly. So that is a quick glance at Stellara. She looks great, but let's talk about some of her accessories now. And Symbion's toughest warrior gets 3 weapons. First off, we have her dagger, which is already in her hand, but just so you guys can get a clearer look at how this looks. Again, nice detail on it. I like the design on the hilt here, and it's a perfect fit for her hand. I mean, that easily slides in, and that's so great you can just easily do that with no problems. On the opposite side, just like how Dargon has a shield, so does Stellara. This is her shield of Skull. So they both have shields, and let me bring in Dargon's as well so you can just kind of see they're both named the exact same thing, but they have different designs, and that's something I'm sure Shows the Fan can explain to me, but they both have shields, and that's pretty cool. And just like Dargon, we can put that off to the side so it can be a little bit more defensive, or off to the front to be equally defensive, but also good for smashing into people. And her final accessory is actually hiding on her back, because just like how Dargon has his holsters for his twin Vengans, Stellara has a holster for her double-barrel shotgun. Yeah, you heard that right, double-barrel shotgun. I don't know how this fits into the world of Sectaurs, and when I read what this was in the back of the packaging, I just started laughing my head off, because a double-barrel shotgun is the last thing I would expect a Sectaur to carry. But it's what she's got. Now, Stellara also has a holster for that knife, or scabbard, I guess more accurately, so I'm going to just put that in there right now and get that out of the way, and let's put that double-barrel shotgun in her hand and see how this looks. My concern is that this is just going to look pretty darn goofy, and it doesn't look too bad, actually. I mean, there's no strong way for her to wield the shotgun other than holding it like this, which is kind of funny. Like, to be honest, it just feels like she's here to whack you on the head with it more so than actually firing the gun. Like, at least Dargon can hold his Slazor, but this double-barrel shotgun is a little bit awkward, but it is a nice design, and it's cool for her to have it, I guess, so I'll give him that much. And I think now it's time for me to slide back in Dargon as well. Let's start doing some comparisons with the two figures side by side. Now, the one thing that they both have, which I didn't mention yet, was their belts, or in the case of Stellara, she's got a heck of a holster system going on there. But yeah, they both have these belts here, which appear to be removable. I'm not going to mess with that, to be quite honest, because I don't know how easily they're going to get put back on. I'm actually not entirely positive they're meant to be taken off. And to be completely honest, like whenever I've seen a lot of these Sectaurs figures out in the wild, the original ones, they're always missing those belts. So I don't really feel like playing around with them. I kind of want to keep them on there because they look pretty great as is. I am going to go ahead and put Stellara's shotgun back in her holster, though, just so we can get a better look at the figure for the rest of the video. And it goes in nice and easy just like that. I think I'm going to put Dargon's sword back in his hand as well. And yeah, now everybody is really ready and decked out. So the biggest difference between the two of them is going to be that paint job. You know, Stellara has the chromium look, whereas Dargon does not. His outfit is still pretty shiny, but he doesn't have like the same transitional elements. Like his is more about the weathered look. Stellara is more about being shiny, and it looks really great. It honestly does. I don't know how well it's going to translate on video, but in person it looks pretty stunning. And especially when you match it up with the gold of their weapons, and also the gold of their antenna. I mean, these look really nice. They really do pop out a lot. And you can see also height-wise, they're just about the same size. And I think they also share the same terrible hairstylist because, man, their hairs are just, they're awkwardly 80s. I mean, you could blame it on them being aliens who are bugs or something too, but I mean, the perm that Dargon has is one thing, but the soccer mom haircut from Stellara, that's definitely a choice. Now, I want to talk about articulation right now, and I think that both of them are going to pretty much have the same articulation because there's not really much of a difference between them as far as like their outfit goes. There's really nothing that's going to be hindering them, I feel like. So let's just do this side by side. We'll start with Dargon if I can. So there we go. I want to let you guys know before I go too deep into this that I did hit them both with a hairdryer before doing this review. So you're going to hear some crunchy noises while I do this because it is really the first time moving them in depth. But when I did try to move them before this video started, they were so stiff. These were some of the stiffest figures I've ever had out of the box. Like, you know, Diamond Select level, if not worse. So I highly urge you, anybody who gets these and takes them out of the packaging, hit them up with a hairdryer to loosen those joints before you do anything with them. So the head, it is not ball jointed, but it can go left and right, just like the classic figure. The arms are ball jointed. There's no bicep joint on these figures because this is a classic style and that didn't really exist yet. But the range of motion on their shoulders is quite excellent. And speaking of, they also have a single jointed elbow, which has some very good movement to that as well, and it does rotate, so that's good. And their wrists also can move around too, so pretty solid amount of posability with these guys. Just again, listen to that crunch. Yeah, pretty crunchy guys right out of the package. Well, now he's like almost too loose, but all right, there we go. So yeah, same range of motion for both of them. Now it looks like the waist moves too. That's a really good amount of waist movement, and I don't know if Stellara has that. I think Stellara, yeah, it looks like she actually does not have that joint. So that might be the one difference between these two figures, is that she does not have a movable waist. Now the legs also should be kind of interesting because they both have great big ball joints for their legs, but they have these holsters that kind of get in their way, or at least for Dargon. He can't really move his legs to the side much, even though his range of motion is otherwise limitless to the front and back. Stellara is going to have some similar issues on one side. Oh my god, hear how stiff that is? But you know, when it's unhindered, you can see it's a pretty solid amount of posability you're going to get out of them. And likewise, surprisingly, they actually have double jointed elbows, and I'm sure that's an upgrade over the original figures too. So look at that. Talk about some flexibility right there. That is great, and that's on Dargon as well. Let me grab him to show you that. And there it is. Look at that wonderful double joint. Perfect. That's great. That is some nice posability right there. And they both also have an ankle that can rotate, and looks like, I don't think it can flex much, but at the very least it can rotate. So, you know, this is certainly an upgrade over the original Coleco figures, and otherwise still really solid amount of articulation. This is really good. I'm actually quite impressed with it. Just the one thing I would nitpick about is the fact that it is a little bit crunchy. Like, those joints are really stiff, and that might be something they could work on. I don't quite know how, but improving the stiffness of these guys out of the box would be a definite help to them. All right, I'm going to move Dargon out of this shot right now. I'm going to bring in some other figures to do some size comparisons. I'm going to start with a WWE Legends Ultimate Warrior figure. And I'm also going to bring in Outback from G.I. Joe Classified, all in the 6-inch scale. And you can see how Stellara sizes up with both of these guys here. And the reason I'm choosing Stellara is, well, one, because she's a little bit of a slimmer figure, but height-wise, her and Dargon, like I said, are comparable. And this is, let me see, I make sure that they're all on the same line, but height-wise, I mean, yeah, this is actually pretty good. I'd say it's also pretty realistic. I mean, considering the height of Ultimate Warrior and Stellara, this is a perfect fit for your 6-inch figures. So she is going to have no problems fitting in with anybody. So final thoughts on the Sectaurs from the Nacelle Company, my very first figures from the Nacelle Company. These are really good. Now, I am curious to see what they're going to do moving forward with their other lines that are not based on pre-existing franchises, because, you know, they had, to be fair, quite a big launch board to play with here. They had a lot of things already existing, and yes, they certainly updated a lot of the toy elements, you know, the articulation, the look of them, the paint, the quality of things in general. But again, these are things that already existed. It's a franchise that's already out there. I am very excited to see what they're going to do with something like Biker Mice from Mars, which again had figures, but I think they're going to have a little more room to play with doing things there. And also that Legends of Laughter line. And likewise too, I know they got some cool robot things coming out with RoboForce, but yeah, there's a lot of possibilities here, and as far as a first taste, I'm liking what I'm getting. If there's one nitpick from me, I would say that it's probably back to the packaging, because earlier we talked about how the packaging was not collector friendly at all, and I think that these should be collector friendly, and that might add a little bit more of an extra cost to have like a piece of plastic and the backing just slide in and out. I don't quite know how that works, but I feel like collectors would probably enjoy that a little bit more, because the thing is, once these guys are out of the box, they're not going back in. So in other words, that's it, they're done. I think collectors would really appreciate being able to take them out and pose them and putting them back in the package so they're not losing that, but I don't know. Again, I'm not a Sectaurs fan. I don't quite know what people are wanting with them. But if you are somebody who's been collecting this line or other 80s toys in that same vein, let me know what you think about these figures. Let me know what you think about the packaging. But again, colors are great. Articulation is really good. I like the accessories. They're a lot of fun. They honestly are a lot more fun than I thought they were going to be. Personally, I'd love to see more figures look like Stellara with that chromium colors on her outfit. I think that armor looks so cool that way. But Dargon's outfit looks really good too, and I really like this, all the different insectoid effects on them. So yeah, you know, I'm hoping that we see a lot more of these Sectaurs from the Nacelle Company, and maybe some more original characters or other unproduced characters as well. Now, if you want to pick up these Sectaurs figures or other lines coming from the Nacelle Company, visit www.nacellestore.com. That's going to be your best place to pick these up, along with other figures coming out from Nacelle and other lines they're distributing from companies like Premium DNA and Wandering Planet. So that's our look at the Sectaurs from the Nacelle Company. It's a very good start here, and I am looking forward to whatever's coming next from them. So until next time, I'm Matthew. This has been Nerd News Today. Thanks for watching my review of Sectaurs Wave 1 from the Nacelle Company. We'll see you guys here next time with more action figure reviews, statue unboxings, and everything else we do here on the channel.